The first refusal did not come from the palace. It did not come from the temple. It came from the archivists. 3 of them stood in the lower corridor outside the forbidden vault, hands still ink-stained from the oldest texts ever opened beneath the sanctuary. They did not whisper. They did not argue. They simply stopped copying the ritual sequence, and that alone changed everything. The high priest noticed immediately. "Continue," he said. They did not move. "You misunderstand," he repeated. "No," one of them answered quietly. "For the first time, we understand exactly." Silence spread through the corridor. Not resistance, recognition. "This ritual," the archivist continued, "was never meant to repeat forever." The high priest's voice hardened. "It preserved the kingdom." "No," she said. "It preserved the delay." Below them, far beneath the temple floor, Vaelor felt the shift. Not in stone, not in the fracture, in belief. Something inside the structure of the seal loosened. "Elira," he said softly. "Yes, they are beginning to read correctly." Above the sanctuary level, priests gathered in private chambers normally reserved for council oaths. But this time, they spoke without consensus, without hierarchy, without certainty. He crossed the barrier. He touched the sigil floor. He spoke inside the vault. He stood inside the circle. Each sentence made the next one easier to say, until someone finally spoke the forbidden conclusion aloud. "He is not contained anymore." The room went still. No one corrected him. Across the city, rumors had already outrun doctrine. Market vendors whispered of light beneath the roads. Children drew circles in dust that glowed faintly after sunset. Animals refused to enter shrine courtyards. And the oldest citizens, those who remembered stories their grandparents had hidden, began telling them again. They sealed him because they feared him. "No," another corrected. "They sealed him because they used him." Inside the palace, the king stood before the same sealed record chamber he had opened as a boy. This time, he did not hesitate. This time, he brought witnesses. The doors opened slowly, stone grinding against stone older than the kingdom itself. Inside, there were no relics, no weapons, no divine instructions, only testimony, names, dates, disappearances, and one symbol repeated across every page, the broken circle. "Not sacrifices," one scholar whispered. "Successors." The king did not speak, because he already knew what they were reading. Below the temple, Elira felt the moment the palace archive opened, not as sound, not as vision, as certainty. "They're learning," she said. "Yes," Vaelor answered. "They always do, eventually. But too late? No. Too slowly? No." He paused. "This time, differently." The fracture widened again, not dramatically, not violently, but enough that she could see more of him than shadow, more than outline, more than presence. "You're clearer," she said. "So are you." Above them, the high priest entered the inner council chamber alone. For the first time in decades, he dismissed the attendants, closed the doors himself, and knelt, not in prayer, in calculation. "If the ritual fails completely," he said aloud to the empty room, "the structure collapses." Behind him, a voice answered, "No." He turned sharply. The king stood in the doorway, unannounced, uninvited, unavoidable. "The structure changes," the king continued. The high priest rose slowly. "You opened the archive. Yes. You should not have. I should have done it sooner." They stood facing each other across centuries of agreement now dissolving in silence. "She is not a sacrifice," the king said. "She never was." The high priest's expression did not change. "She is the seal." "No," the king answered. "She is the hinge." Below them, the fracture pulsed once, strong enough to shake dust from the vault ceiling. Elira stepped closer instinctively. "So that's what I am," she whispered. Vaelor did not answer immediately, because he was listening upward, listening outward, listening beyond the temple entirely. "They are dividing," he said at last. Across the priesthood, lines were forming. Quietly, irreversibly. Some continued preparing the ritual, others began closing the ritual chambers, others still simply stopped speaking the chant at all. Faith had not collapsed. It had split. In the southern district, the historian who carried the glowing stone fragments stood before a gathering crowd now larger than any sermon had drawn in years. "They called him Ruin," he said. "But ruin for whom?" No one answered, because for the first time, they were asking the question seriously. Inside the vault, Elira turned toward the fracture again. "If they stop the ritual," she asked, "what happens?" Vaelor stepped forward, closer than before. Closer than yesterday, closer than the barrier should allow. "Then the seal chooses," he said. "And if they don't?" His gaze did not shift. "Then you do." Above them, across the capital, priests argued. Citizens gathered. Archives opened. Symbols rewrote themselves in stone. And the fracture between worlds widened quietly. Not breaking, not closing, waiting for someone to decide what it had always been meant to become.